Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're stepping into that often uncomfortable space of uncertainty. You know, that feeling when you just can't seem to decide.
Hmm. That feeling of being stuck, maybe hovering between options.
Exactly. And we usually call it indecision, don't we? We treat it like it's some kind of flaw in our character, or maybe we're just not thinking logically enough.
Right, where we're just overthinking everything. But Helen Mudiba, in the article we're exploring today, suggests something quite different.
What's the core idea there?
Well, she writes that indecision often isn't a thinking problem at all. It's it's the body remembering a time when choosing felt unsafe.
Ah, so we're trying to use our minds, our logic, to solve something that's actually being driven by our nervous system, like a protection.
Precisely. It's a protective mechanism that we're misinterpreting. And try to push through it with more thinking, well, it usually doesn't work. Often makes it worse, actually.
That really shifts the perspective, doesn't it? So instead of needing to push harder, maybe we need to, what, feel safer, anchor ourselves.
Exactly that. Anchor ourselves. Clarity doesn't come from forcing it, from more analysis. It tends to arrive when the body, the nervous system, feels grounded enough, safe enough to actually move.
And to help us understand this inner landscape, we're using the pathway to sovereignty framework again.
Yes, which listeners might remember from previous discussions. It helps map these internal shifts. To talk about survival, stability, self-awareness, integrity, wholeness, and freedom.
But these aren't really steps on a ladder, are they? It's more like territories we move through.
That's a great way to put it. Territories of experience. We can cycle through them. It's not linear. You might find yourself in survival, where fear is really strong.
And then move into stability, which
Yeah.
often feels like frustration or agitation, like something is trying to break through.
Exactly. Then maybe self-awareness, where you start to recognize the pattern, often a historical one. Integrity is that crucial point of taking aligned action, even small action, while still feeling the fear.
Okay. And that can lead towards wholeness, where maybe the internal fight stops. And then freedom is what? Pure choice.
Kind of, yeah. Unencumbered expression, making choices that feel truly aligned without that old baggage driving things.
And just a reminder, you really don't need to memorize these stages. We know it's a lot to hold.
Absolutely. It's more about feeling into it. There's a free PDF linked in the description, Where Am I on the Staircase to Sovereignty, which outlines them with reflections if you want to go deeper later.
Right. Listen and feel your way through this. Don't worry about the concepts too much right now.
And just a gentle note of care before we dive in properly. This framework is a tool for reflection. It's not therapy.
That's really important.
Yeah. If exploring these ideas brings up really difficult emotions or feels overwhelming, please honor that. Consider reaching out to a trained therapist or specialist.
Someone who can safely hold that space for you. Seeking support is, well, it's a sign of wisdom, isn't it?
Absolutely. Profound wisdom.
Okay, so let's get into this idea of the body's wisdom. The core idea, as Helen writes, is that indecision is basically a survival instinct that we've mistaken for self-sabotage.
The nervous system is essentially saying, hold on, wait, I remember something painful connected to making a choice like this before.
So the challenge for us then is figuring out if we're wisely pausing, being prudent, or if we're actually in that nervous system paralysis state. How can we tell the difference?
That's the key question. Often, paralysis feels different in the body. It might be a sense of contraction, maybe heaviness, or sometimes a kind of restless agitation. You feel stuck.
Like you want to move, but you just can't.
Exactly. And when we feel that, we often try to fight it with logic, telling ourselves, just decide.
Yeah.
But that usually just amps up the internal resistance because we're not addressing the root cause, which is the feeling of unsafety.
We need to create that safety first.
Yes, before clarity can really land.
Okay, this makes a lot more sense when we see it play out. Let's explore those three stories from the article. They really show how this framework helps us see paralysis as protection, not failure. We start with Maya.
Yes, Maya. She'd been in this job for 9 years. Stable, predictable. But she knew, deep down, that she'd outgrown it.
A quiet question inside. Is this really it?
But every single time she actually sat down, opened her laptop to look for new jobs or apply, her body would just react violently.
And that's the survival level kicking in, right? What did that feel like for her, according to the article?
Helen describes it vividly. Her rib cage felt like it was tightening, like a cage. Her breath got really shallow. Nausea would bubble up.
Wow. That's intense.
It really is. And she'd immediately shut the laptop, maybe tell herself she was being reckless, irresponsible for even thinking about changing jobs.
Why? What was the connection for her nervous system?
For childhood, it was marked by frequent moves, a lot of financial instability. So her system learned really deeply that uncertainty equals danger, real physical level danger.
So staying in the known job, even if it felt suffocating, felt like the only safe option her body would allow.
Exactly. Her nervous system wasn't evaluating career prospects. It was trying to keep her safe from perceived existential threat. The problem wasn't the job search. It was the underlying fear of uncertainty itself.
So how did things start to shift for her?
It took a friend, Sarah, to gently interrupt her endless loop of pros and cons. Sarah just asked her, very simply, Maya, what if you're not indecisive? What if you're just scared?
And that question, it landed differently.
It did. It seemed to bypass the overthinking mind and speak directly to that feeling state. It sparked that shift into stability. Suddenly, there was this rush of frustration, maybe even anger.
Yeah.
Anger at herself, at the smallness of her life. It was energy finally moving.
And that energy moves her towards self-awareness, seeing the pattern.
Yes, she started to recognize, oh, this paralysis isn't about now. It's historical. It's my childhood fear running the show.
Okay, so she's aware, but then comes integrity. How does she act without just, white-knuckling it? Because that feels like the trap thinking integrity means forcing a big, scary leap.
That's such a crucial distinction. Forcing it is pushing against the fear, often overriding the body's signals. Integrity, within this framework, is about moving with the fear, honoring it, but not being dictated by it.
So what did that look like for Maya? It wasn't quitting immediately.
No, not at all. Her action was much quieter, much more internal at first. When the fear surged that tight chest, the nausea, she learned to pause, to place a hand flat against her sternum, a simple gesture of self-anchoring.
Grounding herself in the present moment.
Exactly. And she'd whisper to herself something like, I am safe right now. I can take one small step and still be safe.
What kind of small step?
Maybe just updating one section of her CV, or researching one company without the pressure of applying. Tiny steps. The key was doing it while actively regulating her body's fear response, not trying to ignore it.
So she's building capacity, bit by bit, teaching her nervous system that movement doesn't have to equal danger anymore.
Precisely. And that consistent self-anchoring, that tending to the fear, is what allows the body to eventually relax into a state of wholeness. The internal battle subsides.
The ground feels solid again, not because the external circumstances changed dramatically overnight, but because her internal relationship to uncertainty shifted.
Yes. So when she finally did hand in her notice, months later, Helen writes that it felt quiet, calm, deeply aligned. She could feel it all the way through her body, in her belly, her legs, her feet. That deep sense of yes.
And that's freedom. Wow.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder.
Doesn't it? Helen poses the question directly. When you call yourself indecisive, could it be that your body is simply waiting to know it will be safe if you move?
That's a powerful reframe. Let's sit with that for a moment. Okay, let's move to our second story. Theo, the artist who's afraid to begin.
Ah, yes, Theo. He'd made the big leap, left a demanding finance career to pursue his passion for painting. Sounds amazing, right?
The dream.
But he's completely paralyzed. His studio's set up, the canvas is there, but his brush just hovers inches away. He can't make the first mark.
And he tells himself it's perfectionism, wants it to be brilliant right from the start.
That's his rationalization. But again, we have to ask, like you did earlier, is it really just perfectionism or maybe procrastination, or is it something deeper, a nervous system response?
How do we differentiate here? What are the clues for Theo?
The physical signs. Helen notes he described his muscles feeling incredibly tight, especially his jaw and shoulders. His breath held. It wasn't just a thought pattern. It was a physical state of being braced, almost frozen.
Okay, so that points towards survival again. What's the underlying fear?
The article connects it back to a seemingly small childhood memory. His mother, looking at his early drawings, saying something well-intentioned but quite damaging.
What does she say?
Something like, "That's nice, darling, but what will you actually do for work?"
Oof, yeah, that lands heavily, especially for a creative kid.
Right. It subtly taught his system. Your expression, your art, isn't valid. It's not enough. It's risky. So picking up the brush now, as an adult, his body interprets that act of creation as exposure.
Exposure to what? Criticism? Failure?
Exposure to rejection, fundamentally. The old message, if you paint and it's not good enough or not useful, you will be rejected. Your core self won't be accepted. So the safest thing, nervously speaking, is to not paint at all. Freeze.
Avoid the potential pain by avoiding the act itself. Makes sense, in a tragic sort of way. How does he shift?
Again, a friend plays a key role, Mira. She sees through the perfectionism story and asks him directly, "Are you afraid?"
Just like with Maya, that simple, direct question.
It cuts through the noise. That's the spark of stability. It allows him to move into self-awareness, to finally admit, yes, I'm terrified. He recognizes the paralysis isn't about making good art. It's about protecting himself from the anticipated pain of his truth, his expression not being received well.
So, integrity for Theo. What does that look like? He can't exactly force himself to paint a masterpiece while terrified.
No, and Mira suggests something quite radical, actually. Something beautifully simple. She says, okay, forget the canvas, forget making anything good, just paint something that doesn't matter at all, something you're definitely going to throw away.
Lower the stakes completely.
To zero. So Theo finds an old scrap piece of wood, some leftover house paint, and just starts making marks. Clumsy marks, uncertain marks, no pressure, no expectation.
And what happens in his body?
The tightness starts to ease, the jaw unclenches a bit, the breath deepens. Just the act of motion, without the weight of significance, is enough to begin thawing the freeze.
That's profound. Motion is enough. It doesn't have to be perfect motion or productive motion, just movement.
Exactly. He starts to find through these meaningless acts of creation that expression itself can feel safe. That's the beginning of wholeness for him. The fear doesn't vanish overnight, especially when he thinks about sharing his real work later. But it no longer has complete control.
Doesn't drive the bus anymore.
Right. And he moves towards freedom as he learns to create more for the connection with himself, for the communion, rather than solely seeking external validation or approval.
Wow.
He starts to untangle his sense of worth from how his art is received.
Another powerful question arises from this, doesn't it?
It does, as Helen puts it. What if your hesitation to start is not resistance, but a remnant of the times your truth was not received?
That resonates. Okay, our third story. Alina. She's in a long-term relationship, 7 years with Daniel. But there's a paralysis there, too.
Yes, a really difficult one. When people ask her if she loves Daniel or if she's happy, her throat closes up, her stomach clenches. She feels completely stuck.
Stuck between what?
Between staying, which increasingly feels like losing yourself, compromising too much, and leaving, which feels terrifying, like losing love, security, maybe being completely alone.
A classic damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario.
Yeah.
What's the survival pattern here?
Her core nervous system equation, learned very early on, seems to be autonomy equals abandonment.
Wow. See more about that. How did she learn that?
In her childhood, expressing her own needs, preferences, or disagreeing often led to subtle or maybe not so subtle withdrawal of affection, conditional love, coldness, maybe silence.
So she learned that to stay connected, to receive love, she had to suppress her own desires, her own no, silence her autonomy.
Exactly. Choosing yourself felt synonymous with risking connection, risking being left alone. So now, in this relationship crossroads, making a clear choice for herself, either staying authentically or leaving, feels like activating that primal abandonment fear.
So the paralysis is keeping her safe from that terrifying feeling of potential isolation.
It seems so. The frustration builds and builds, that internal pressure cooker, until she hits stability. She finally breaks down, maybe in therapy or to a close friend, and speaks the raw truth. I just don't know if I want this anymore.
Just saying the words out loud.
Yes. Allowing the forbidden feeling to surface, that cracks open the door to self-awareness. She begins to see, oh, this inability to choose isn't actually about Daniel or even the relationship in its entirety. It's about this young part of me who learned that choosing myself means I'll end up alone.
That's huge, recognizing the root. So what does integrity look like for Alina? This feels incredibly delicate.
It is, and it's often messy. Her first act of integrity, as described in the article, is speaking her uncertain truth to Daniel. Not with blame, not with demands, but simply stating where she is. I love you, but I don't know if I want to stay.
That takes immense courage, just letting the truth hang in the air without trying to fix it or take it back immediately.
Yes, resisting the urge to apologize for her feelings or smooth things over. Just allowing her authentic, albeit confusing, reality to exist in the relationship space.
But you mentioned earlier this pathway isn't always linear. Does something happen next?
It does, and it illustrates the non-linear nature beautifully. They might take some space apart, and in that space, Alina starts to feel clearer, lighter, unencumbered. She touches wholeness for a moment. She thinks, okay, I know what I need to do.
But then
But then Daniel calls. He's heartbroken, Understandably. Maybe he promises to change, offers solutions, pleads with her, and instantly that old wave of guilt, confusion, the fear of hurting him, the fear of being alone, it floods back.
And she snaps back into maybe stability or even survival,
Yeah.
feeling torn all over again.
Exactly. She might cycle back. And the crucial point here is that this is not failure. It's not backsliding. It's part of the integration process. She's learning to feel the guilt, feel the fear of his pain, without letting those feelings automatically dictate her choice. She's building capacity to hold her truth alongside the complexity of the situation.
That's such an important nuance. It's not about eliminating the uncomfortable feelings, but learning to navigate them without being controlled by them.
Precisely. And eventually, perhaps after cycling through this a few times, the knowing returns. But this time it feels deeper, more solid, less reactive. It's integrated.
And she can make her final choice from that place.
Yes. It might still be painful, but it's aligned. She might say with sadness, but also with clarity, I love you, and I can't stay and remain whole. She moves forward not out of rebellion or blame, but from a place of deep self-alignment. That's her freedom. Knowing her worth isn't conditional on sacrificing her truth.
Wow. These stories, they really illustrate how complex indecision can be and how it's so often tied to our deepest needs for safety and belonging.
They really do. And the underlying message, the wisdom uniting them, is that this paralysis we call indecision isn't a character flaw. It's not a failure of courage. It might actually be profound wisdom, waiting.
Waiting for what?
Waiting for the body, the nervous system, to remember or to learn that it can move, it can choose without losing itself, without triggering those old survival responses in overwhelming ways.
So the invitation then is to approach our own moments of stuckness not with harsh judgment, but with compassion, curiosity.
Exactly. Asking ourselves gently, what is my body trying to protect me from right now? What old fear might be getting activated here?
That feels like a much kinder and potentially more effective way to navigate these moments.
We really can be.
So as we draw this deep dive to a close, maybe we can leave our listeners with those final reflective questions from the article, just to sit with, to feel into.
Yes. Let's offer them gently. First, what does uncertainty actually feel like in your body right now or the last time you felt stuck? Don't analyze it, just notice. Is it tightness, hollowness, heat, cold? Where do you feel it?
Just noticing the physical sensations, their information. And then when you hesitate, when you feel that pull not to choose or act, what specific fear might be underneath? What memory, however faint, could be reactivated?
And can you perhaps create small moments of safety for yourself within the uncertainty? Little anchors like Maya's hand on her sternum that allow clarity to maybe return more naturally in its own time.
Rather than forcing it. And finally, can you trust, even just a little bit, that not knowing is not the same as being lost? That sometimes stillness is simply the pause your system needs before true alignment can emerge?
Let those questions just settle. No need to have immediate answers. Allow yourself to simply notice what arises in your body, in your felt sense, not just in your mind.
True decision-making, it seems, really begins when the body feels anchored, not just when the mind thinks it's figured everything out. Movement arrives when we learn to be with ourselves compassionately in the not knowing.
Beautifully put.
If this exploration resonated with you, remember that free PDF, Where Am I on the Staircase to Sovereignty, is linked in the episode description. It has practices to help you recognize where you are and find your way back to safety.
And if you feel ready to take this practice deeper, to really align with your body's innate wisdom for choosing, there's also the journal, Your Path to Choosing Joy. It's a 21-day journey designed to help you move away from choices based on obligation or fear and towards what truly feels alive and right for you.
Creating space for joy without getting stuck.
Exactly. And we'll end with a final blessing from Helen Mudiba's article. May you find the courage to wait when your body needs time.
And the trust to move when alignment calls you forward. Until next time.
Climb the staircase, breath by breath, with compassion and presence we rise from stress, from fear to peace, from shame to grace. Climb the staircase to sovereignty. When you feel unsafe, too much to bear, you shut down or flare, you vanish or glare, your heart beats fast, your breath runs tight, you just want out or to make it right. That's survival, the you that just wants to survive. What you feel is complete powerlessness, a cry for safety, not for success. Climb the staircase, breath by breath, with compassion and presence. We rise from stress, from fear to peace, from shame to grace. Climb the staircase to sovereignty. When you feel the pressure to fix or prove, you hustle hard, you never stop or move. You shrink your voice to keep control. You manage the threat, but it takes a toll. There's stability, but you that's trying to keep things intact. What you feel is the pattern unwind. You are no longer lost in the mind. Climb the staircase, breath by breath. Let presence be your steady lift. From fear to peace, from shame to grace. Climb the staircase to sovereignty. When you feel the courage to live what's true, to honor your values and what you do, you choose your voice without defense. Even if the world stays tense, that's integrity. The you that remembers what you stand for. What you feel is steady ground. Truth walks with you, strong and sound. Climb the staircase, breath by breath. Let your truth be the lift through doubt. From fear to peace, from shame to grace. Climb the staircase to sovereignty. When you feel unshaken, calm inside, you no longer chase or need to hide. You know your worth is not up for trade. You walk through life unafraid. That's freedom. The you that trusts the road ahead. What you feel is space to be rooted, open, wild and free. Climb the staircase,